Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
All right, good morning and welcome to the show, Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. My name is Emmanuel Ojadigeli, so glad to have you join us on the show this morning, where we bring it to you as it is. We tell you what is happening in the socio-economic and socio-political space and even in the social-cultural space, and try to help you make sense of these issues and help you further understand them as they affect you as a person living in the country. We're reaching you live from StarTimes channel 190 on the DTT platform. And of course, you can follow us on all our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter by searching for Western Spring Television. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel at WSTV or Western Spring Television when you find us on there to watch us live and catch up with all the missed episodes of this program and other programs. Thank you for starting your day with us this morning.
It's a beautiful morning. Thank you for joining us on the Morning Spring, Western Spring Television. I'm Temi Tokbe Ajijala Ola.
Well, as usual, we have for you the papers this morning. We also will be taking a look at one of the topical issues currently defining Nigeria's socio-political space. We will be taking the papers shortly, but it seems that there is now more cash in circulation.
Yes.
And less and less people are queuing at banks to get money. Although it's still hectic to get in to do some other things, like get an ATM card or see a customer care representative. But I'm also assuming that in no time that will go around.
I think most of the banks are just getting their acts together after the whole cash crunch thing. You know, some banks have lost a lot and they're just, mobilizing to get their services back to, normal. And so, but the cash has really been circulating. I mean, I was asking a banker friend, and then she was saying that less than 20 people on queue at a time. And all the ATM booths are always having money, at the same time. Unlike before, when it just be one dispensing per time and, about 400 or 500 people on the queue. So it's really been good these days.
My concern now is those who burnt down banks and destroyed ATM stands
they'll have to
because
suffer it.
like now you can't even have access to your own money because the only bank in your area you burnt down.
And then another thing we need to look at is the fact that people are getting their monies out of the bank but not depositing anymore. The bankers are lamenting, that deposits are low, if not even zero.
It's the lack of trust in the system.
Yes.
You may really not want to blame Nigerians, but at the same time, it doesn't bode well for cash in circulation. So I think.
So while we have the cash crisis, having subsided on face level, there are other problems attached to it, like the one I just mentioned.
Yes, there are other problems, and as you said, we hope that these problems will go away soon and they will be resolved. But then let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll bring you the papers. All right, welcome back. Let's start with the Punch newspaper for you this morning. The Punch newspaper has a banner headline on this political story. Post-election threats. Obi Dati risk treason charges. Federal government warns. As on page 2, Labour Party presidential candidate deputy calling for insurrection treasonable. Obi should face the law, says APC. Federal government's allegations reckless, says Obi, PDP. Reps condemn calls for interim government. Ask DSS to arrest enemies of democracy. Chaotic scenes coming out from Nigeria's socio-political space recently.
And some of the statements, I think, are way overboard. And I wouldn't know, I'm not a lawyer, but I don't think that any of the analysts we've had in the House has said anything in line with treason. Because apart from the fact that it was a private conversation that got leaked, I mean, it might have been, yes, a statement that was that could be insightful, but treasonable, I don't know. I don't think so. We might need some sort of enlightenment on that. But then, fact that reps have condemned interim government as well is also the right thing to do at this period. But I know that you know, the right authorities would do the right thing, or should toe the right line in this Obidati case.
Well, I'm wondering why it is so much, why it's raising so much dust. But I saw the response of Obi to that issue yesterday, calling that allegation reckless, you know, saying that he has not even called for any insurrection. He hasn't said anything. He just had a private conversation. He didn't say that people should take to the street and topple the government. He didn't say people should take up arms and go fight the government. So I wonder how the APC, how the minister, and it's more worrisome because that statement was made using the official communication channel of the country, the Ministry of Information, the Minister of Information, and that gives it an international coloration. I mean, you're putting the man on an international spotlight and giving him sort of some discolored appearance because of politics, which I think this is all about. It is politics. It's no longer the context and the content of what was said. It's now politics and them, you know, trying to politic about the matter. But it will be also interesting to get a legal angle to it to see if that statement constitutes treason.
I think we can also see the angle where it's coming from. Like we checked the second and the third riders where APC is saying that Obi should face the law, and then the federal government's allegation reckless, says Obi and PDP. We can see, I don't know, but we can just, you know, look at those lines and see that we know, you know, those people that are trying to, you know, color, give Obi that discoloration, the face of that. And Obi has said something about it and saying that that discoloration is not good for his image and Nigeria's as well. It's on one of the papers.
Well, we hope that they would understand the gravity of their actions and how much it affects Nigeria.
Yes.
Well, below that story, a pictorial story there, Donald Trump protest as Trump pleads not guilty to criminal charges. See the picture of him in the courtroom there, and the protesters outside saying nobody's above the law.
Yes.
A lot is going down. 36 counts or 34 counts of you know, charges there, all going totally in 104 years if he's found guilty on all counts, all charges. But you never know. Nigeria is nascent in its democratic stage, and then we look up to countries like this and you see that the right thing is being done. If someone contravenes the law, it doesn't matter who they are, so long as you know that they contravened the law, you know, you take it up legally instead of going on smear campaigns. I've not seen the official, I've not seen Jen Psaki, or what's the name now, the White House press secretary, come out to say Mr. Trump is this or that. You leave it to those who do it, security agencies, the legal department and all of that. And he was arrested yesterday, you know, later in the evening after all of the court proceedings. He was arrested, and so many, you know, on different divides. The issues, some see it as political witch hunt, some see it as doing due process. But the next court date should be around December or thereabout, and that's why most people feel it's more political, because that's when the campaign season for the 2024 elections will really kick off. But then let's wait and see where Donald Trump ends. And this is one man who burst onto the world stage as a billionaire and as an even more you know, vivacious president, always in the news, always in the news. Now on the 12th page of Punch newspaper, page 12, avoid offensive sermons. Ramadan, avoid offensive sermons. Etunope tells clerics. This is very important at this time. I've listened to some sermons and they've not been really nice. They've been divisive, if you ask me, and they've been really. It's not what we need at this time when the country needs healing.
And
you know, not further driving a wedge in between
Yes.
what is already wedged. You're not widening the gap. We need the gap to be closed, as it were.
Yes.
So I hope this warning is heeded by the clerics as they go about their business. I mean, it's okay to be fiery in your approach. It's okay to be vehement, to categorically and unequivocally say what you want to say, but you must also categorically avoid preaching things that would offend the other person. I'm not talking about not speaking the truth. Speak the truth and leave it at that. Let it be the truth. Let it not be your truth. Let it be the truth, the absolute truth. Well, on pages 4 and 5 of the Punch newspaper, Coroner okays Chrisland's independent autopsy. That's a picture of Whitney Adeniran there, the 12-year-old who died there in the inter-house sport competition of Chrisland's schools in Lagos. Independent autopsy, I think that's the way to go.
Yes, I think it is too.
Well, on pages 7 and 12, Afenifere crisis deepens. Youths ask Adebanjo to step down. Now, Payo Adebanjo has been not really on the right side, on the good side of many persons. You know, the Pan Afenifere people who are leaning towards that group, were still holding grudges for his endorsement of Peter Obi at the 2023 general elections, and so it's not surprising that there are calls have been made for his resignation. Well, I don't for him to step down. I don't think he will do that. I don't think he should do that. As much as he belongs to an organization, he also has his personal preference. He also has his choice. It doesn't make him less a Yoruba person. It doesn't make him less an Afenifere person. People vote their conscience. People choose their conscience. You cannot determine what their conscience is for them. So I think this calls for his resignation are not really it at all, and we should move past this kind of politics. Above the nameplate of the Punch newspaper, foreign investors Sean Kano, Rivers, Ogun, 24 states. Foreign investors Sean Kano, Rivers, Ogun, 24 states.
I mean, are Kano, Rivers, and Ogun part of the 24, or that's 24 and then the other 3 as well?
Well, 24 and the other 3 as well.
That's 27 states of the 36. That's not really a good image for Nigeria.
I do not think it's a good image. I don't think it portends well for Nigeria, but I hope that we also put things in place that will not scare away our investors. Security, budget cycle, predictability is also another thing. And you know, we need to just shore up some of these things. Yes. And on page 11 of the newspaper, cash circulation low, NLC tells CBN. Page 11, and that is just the truth. The circulation is low and full. Page 11, Naira crisis. And on page 20, Nigeria more divided than civil war era. Sanusi, that's some persons may say it's a far-reaching statement. Some may say the statement itself is reaching, but that's the truth, and it's succinctly put. At this point, nerves are so frayed. I read that was making reference to a tweet by Senator Shehu Sani, who was talking about how he went to a government office and he got there and saw that some of the persons were not talking to each other. And he asked what happened. He was told that it was the aftermath of the election. People now have trust issues. I've been working with you for years, and all of a sudden, because of elections, you see me as an outsider. You see me as someone worthy of being beaten and being disenfranchised because I don't belong to the same ethnic group as you. I mean, if anyone does that to me at my workplace, rightly, I would want to dissociate from the person because you don't wish me well. You only wish me well to my face. And when push comes to shove, you won't protect me. So we are so much divided. You hear it every day. And what is painful for me is that when the elites push this propaganda, they themselves are insulated. They are far above it. They can see beyond it. But the people to whom they push this propaganda, those who are the grassroots, do not recover from it. They take it and then they run with it. How do How do you go back to Ikorodu or Mushin, for instance, or
Tell
Alimosho,
them.
and tell them that it was all politics and these people are your brothers and sisters? You've already sown the seed, and it's sad. It's
Very
difficult to
true,
see you,
yeah.
bring out that seed again, uproot it. But I hope that we one day have a leader who would pull the fabric together and sew it together and make sure that we continue to live in unity. But that's all on the Punch newspaper this morning.
Right on the Guardian newspaper this morning, FG Obi trade accusations on treason charge, and that's on page 6. And the writers say Mohammed Obi fanning insurrection. Mohammed says Obi fanning insurrection. And Obi, the marketing me not good for Nigeria. Don't misinform international community. Labour Party cautions Mohammed. Reps condemn interim government plot. Reps condemn interim government plot, task security agencies on vigilance. And that's that on page 6. Still the battle between, on the Obi case about the leaked audio.
Well, it's I can see Obi's point. I can see Obi's point, and it's very valid. It's not just him that is being demarketed now.
Yeah,
it's the entire country. For instance, look at what is happening in the United States. Trump is on trial, and everybody's watching, everybody's seeing. It won't stop investors from going to the U.S. because the U.S. is a force to reckon with on the international stage. We don't have that kind of standing yet. And you just continue to, at a time where foreign direct investment is dropping, where our external reserves are dropping, and we're not getting any sort of help, but China is turning down our loans, our loan requests, and a lot of things are happening to us on the international stage. We forget that the political season has huge ramifications, far-reaching implications for us as a people and as a nation. When you continue to do this, when you continue to put out statements like this, especially when, someone made a joke on social media, and I found some sense in it, that if this government had anything whatsoever on Peter Obi and Dati Ahmed, they would have been arrested by now, because they are private citizens. They are not government officials. They don't enjoy any form of immunity. So if you found any dirt on them, by now they will be in custody. But you've not done that.
If we could have a leaked audio of a private conversation of that
if you are sure about the authenticity.
If there was something more incriminating, that would have been released.
Yes, you would have arrested the man and then put to bed all of these issues. But instead, you're allowing it to run. And someone also said that Labour Party, from being a party that is structureless, suddenly it's giving even the Nigerian government nightmares.
Yes.
It goes to show you the heavy political living.
It goes to show a lot.
Yes.
Especially in the face of all the petitions and all, the court cases that are, pending and that will be coming out in days to come. So it shows a lot and why this is coming at this time.
Well, again, I hope that we see the future implications of these things and not play ourselves into a tight spot on the international stage.
Well, as well on page 6, task for Nigeria's famous as Trump faces trial. And then below that story, Nigeria's capital inflow buckles on the rising risks, monetary tightening. And that is on page 15. And says NATO's border with Russia doubles as Finland joins. Finland has joined NATO, joined yesterday.
Oh, well.
That's on page 30.
Yes, Finland became the 31st member of NATO yesterday, ending years and years of its policy of neutrality and non-alignment. And you can see why that is. Russia is a growing threat in the European Union bloc. It is a growing threat in Eurasia too, where it also has very large influence both on the Asian continent, because Russia is geographically on both Europe and Asia, sits in Europe and sits in Asia too. And the landmass, as small as it is, as almost insignificant as it is, Russia seems to be putting people on their toes, sleepless nights and all of that. And I know that it's such a huge relief for Finland having an extra layer of protection, and NATO also having an extra border, to further push its resources and push its bases. At the same time, I also see it as forcing Putin's hand, and maybe he would force himself into problems. We don't know. There's already an international arrest warrant for him. But I think the war in Ukraine has unraveled a lot. It has demystified Russia to a large extent. It means that without its nuclear capabilities, almost any country can go toe to toe with Russia. We've not been able to conquer, in quotes, small Ukraine after over a year. I mean, you're taking heavy losses, and it just calls to question the rationale behind the invasion in the first place. So he did it in 2008 with Georgia. He got repelled. Did it in 2014, annexed Crimea in Ukraine, and now 2022 he started this, and you begin to wonder how much territory of Ukraine he wants to take. Do you want to take over the entire country? Do you want to take over just the east, the Donbass region? What exactly do you want? And these are very interesting topics. And the interesting angles. But congratulations to Finland, Sanna Marin, delivering that for her people there.
Yes,
I mean, she took office at the age of 35 or 38 or thereabouts. She's in her 40s now, and she's been one of the smartest and most efficient world leaders. Congratulations to the Finns. We hope that they enjoy the benefits of being members of NATO.
Yes. All right, that's all on the Guardian newspaper.
All right, so let's take our last paper for you this morning, the Nation newspaper. The banner headline says, Federal Government Obi, that is actions treasonable. What exactly are the actions? That's what I want to know. What have they said that has not been said in worse ways by other people?
Yes.
Why not take care of all of them together? Why are you fixated on someone, on two persons? When there's so many persons who are in that net, if you want to go by your definition of treason or insurrection, there are so many persons who have made, Femi Fani-Kayode, for instance, said they were going to make the country ungovernable if something happens to their mandate. That is a statement similar to what Trump said in January that led to the Capitol Hill issue on the 6th. So put everybody together, saying Obi, that is actions treasonable, yes, says oppose integrity intact, showing at the crimes, that is TV chat, Obi denies it all. Lai Mohammed says it was wrong for Obi in one breath to seek redress in court over the outcome of the polls, and in another breath incite people to violence. A Democrat should not believe in democracy only when it wins the election. Now the question is, this man, Peter Obi, has always called for calm. I still saw a video of him yesterday, one of his supporters speaking to him in Igbo at the airport, saying that, what's the next step? Should we go and protest? And the man was saying, no, just calm down. We will continue. He said that this has been going on for long. We will wait, we will calm down, continue to tell them, we'll persist in telling them that this is wrong. That is someone you call an insurrectionist, someone who has called for calm, who has taken to Twitter and told his supporters to not go on the street, told them to not even come to the court when they went to the court.
That's an important one.
So what exactly are his actions? I want the federal government to list out the actions. What are the statements that you find treason is not something you joke with. It's a matter of national security. Are you saying that Peter Obi is a threat to national security? If he is, then pick him up.
Yes.
All of this back and forth they are unnecessary. And Peter Obi is saying it is most unfortunate that these consistent efforts to portray me quite contrary to what I am and my core values is coming from such high quarters. Minister Lai accusing me of stoking insurrection is totally malicious and fictitious. It's coming from Peter Obi, and the story underneath there is the reps others condemning the interim government plot. Wow. BDC's aid treasury looting terrorism as agency. I don't know who've clamped down on Bureau de change operators over time, but it seems that is not working. That isn't working. Now the bottom strip, anti-Tinubu air passenger remanded in custody. Kwara Assembly gets CJ nominee. That's on page 27 above the banner headline. Second Niger Bridge for inauguration May 15th. Lagos-Ibadan road ready April 30th. And Finland joins NATO-Russia protest. Russia currently heads the United Nations Security Council, took up chairmanship of that position last week. It rotates between the members on a monthly basis. And despite protests from Ukraine is the first time the United Nations Security Council will be headed by a country that has invaded another country. And it didn't release it, but it was their turn to head the council, and they did. And now Russia is protesting that Finland Russia looks like, to me, like that big cousin in your house who doesn't want other children to have toys, but wants to have the toys and then decide who gets what. What's your business with NATO? With Finland joining NATO, it doesn't threaten you in any way. But then I can't understand why Putin is like that. On page 5, wreck in governorship election bribe mess. How attempt to smuggle ballot papers was foiled. As on page 5, I said it, that this election is far from over. So many things will be unraveled. So many names will be mentioned. So many fingers will be pointed. And then at the end of the day, we get to see so many stories coming out. And on page 7, government halts 10% hike in excise duty on non-alcoholic drinks. And NERC goes tough on discos over meters.
I think both are quite interesting and very good. Very, very good at this time.
Oh, that's the papers. Those are the papers that we have for you this morning. And those are the stories coming from there. We want to enjoin everybody in this country to not set the country on fire, as it were. So many tempers are flaring. So many we're at a tipping point, and all the principal actors should be doing their best now to douse tensions and not continue to fan the embers of discord and disunity. We'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll bring in our guest to help us discuss this particular issue that has been trending on the political scene for some days.
Stay with us.
Badamasi Adegoke Adelabu was a prominent figure in Ibadan politics and Western region before Nigeria's independence. He was a key founder of the National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons, a political party that held lofty the torch of liberty for the two West African countries. He carved a niche for himself as a wordsmith and a creative speaker. The nickname Kwenkele Mens was a natively corrupted version of Peculiar Mess, his bombastic English language style often used to score proceedings at the parliament. The author of Africa in Ebullition, a handbook of freedom for Nigerian nationalists, was Nigeria's Federal Minister of Natural Resources and Social Services between 1955 and 1956. He died in an auto crash on the 25th March 1958 at the age of 42. Western Spring Television identifies Adegoke Adelabu as a watershed character in history. The name Adolf Hitler exudes a gale of bile from millions of people who were victims of his autocratic rule and love, from fanatical supporters of his imperial aggression. Born April 20, 1889, at a small Austrian town sandwiched between Austro-German frontier, Adolf Hitler spent most of his childhood in Linz, the capital of Upper Austria. As a very prominent stakeholder in the horrific events of conflicts in Europe, Adolf Hitler could simply go off as the sole mover of the Second World War. 40 million Jews were murdered in the gas chambers of various Nazi camps on the orders of Adolf Hitler. Thousands of Adolf Hitlers still live in Germany today, but the majority of them are elderly and were named before the end of the Second World War. As the name pales into vanishing rarity, 13 children, according to official records, were named Adolf Hitler between 2006 and 2013. Western Spring Television identifies Adolf Hitler as a major character in history.
Adolf Jagaban.
All right, so welcome to the show this morning. Once again, Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. Now it's time to go straight to the conversation that we have for today. There's a lot of matters arising from Nigeria's socio-political space. This morning, we're joined live in the studio by architect Goke Omigbodo, who will be helping us make light of these issues. Good morning and welcome to the show.
My pleasure to always be with you, Emmanuel, and Temitope.
Yes, welcome. Okay, so this is the first chat we'll be having after the elections. I don't think we've seen after the elections.
Well, not with you, but I've been on
our sister station.
No. I've been on a program with Femi Adefila, pertinent questions.
Okay, yes, pertinent questions, yes, but on the Morning Spring,
no, this
is our first time. So let me ask you now, what is your total assessment of the electoral process?
Well, before I go on to the total assessment of the electoral process, and being very aware of the very strong propaganda machinery of the APC and the twisting of what people say, let me first and foremost say that I, as an obedient and most obedient, are completely opposed to an interim national government. It's not part of our agenda. It's not part of our thinking. If anybody is thinking along those lines and anybody needs to be checked, let the Directorate of Military Intelligence do its work. By the time you hear the DSS screaming and making noise, then it must be something that may be beyond their control. Because ordinarily they can pick a Goke Omigbodo or pick a Dati Ahmed, pick a Peter Obi or anybody up, or pick Elaine Mohammed or anybody, you know. But when you see them screaming, my suspicion is that eyes should be looking at the military. And I'm not sure there is any politician in this country that will support an interim national government. Now, let me now go back to your question. The question that you asked is actually what is making people jittery about what the situation is. Of course, you and I know that the elections were not proper elections. And I dare say I'm waiting for the time when Peter Obi will probably come out and accept that he said those things that were said to have been said by him. I listened to the audio, sounded like it could be, but I want to wait for him to be sure that he actually said that the elections were a religious war. And if he said so, and I would quickly agree with him that it was a religious war that was declared by the APC. It was a religious war that was declared by the APC in Kano State. It was an ethnic war that was declared by the APC in Lagos State. It was an economic war that was declared by the APC on all Nigerians. And they deceived everybody into believing that the target of making cash difficult for people was to target Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We are almost 2 months after the elections now. We are still finding life difficult. It's only now that you are still bringing back the old notes that were before the elections. The elections were a complete charade. Let me tell you the truth. They did a selective, and I understand the kind of script that played out, because they will want you to believe, oh, it was, and then they will ask you, also, if it was a charade, why is it that PDP won all the seats in Osun and all that? They knew the real price that they were going for. They knew that they would lose so many states, and they knew that if they didn't employ the kind of tactics that they employed in Lagos, there was no way APC could have won in Lagos State. I was joking with you before I entered the studio. Your own name, Emmanuel Ujeagili, will never allow you to vote in Lagos. Temitope's complexion, my complexion, would never allow me to vote in Lagos because there was ethnic screening. And so how would they not be sure that I am of Igbo extraction? Being this light complexion, Temitope would never vote. That was the kind of thing that they were doing. So there was a complete ethnic war in Lagos. There was a complete religious war all over the country. What would you call it? When people were being screened and were being terrorized and were being asked to go back home and they were being disenfranchised. What is war? Is it not one entity being against another on issues of domination or territorial occupancy? That was a war. So please, let's forget about the fact that Peter Obi said it or any other person said it. We should look at who started it, who who turned it into a war? And it was the APC. But you see, the APC has a fantastic propaganda machinery. I have said it on a Yoruba program on your sister radio station. You know, there is a Yoruba proverb that says that if you are slow as a farmer in pointing to the thief turns on you and claims that you are the rogue. That's exactly what the APC is doing. And there is another scenario that people would always paint, that some elements, as bad as they could be, will be the ones that will call the rogue to come and steal something, and they will also be the ones to tell the farmer to watch out for the rogue. And I say the APC has gone beyond that. They will tell the farmer to wait and look out for what is to be stolen. They themselves will be the thieves or sponsor some thieves to come and steal. They will invite you to come and be a witness to what is going to happen. That thing will eventually be thrown at your laps, you the witness. And that's exactly what they have been doing. So if we are talking of the elections, because I have not forgotten the questions that you asked, that thing was a stolen mandate at the national level and a script written to allow a few truths to emanate at lower levels so that everything will be packaged and seemingly be like something wholesome. Now, I need to ask questions. I know you are asking me questions. So if I can't ask you, then I'm asking the viewers at home. Why is it that in many polling units, they were able to transmit results of National Assembly elections, Senate and House of Reps straight to IRV or whatever it is, from the same polling units, several of them, not one, not two, running into thousands? And they were not able, on the same day of the same elections, the same BVAS machines, the same personnel using them, they were not able to transmit those of the presidential elections. So these are questions. People should get more intelligent in asking questions, and let us all recognize who needs to be warned not to gaslight the polity. I listened to the last things that you said before you invited me into the studio here, and that's the same thing I want to tell Nigerians. Nigerians, let us have a peaceful country. No to any interim national government. Let us follow up legitimacy in all situations. Whether we trust the courts or not, let us go to the courts. Somebody called me yesterday and said, would the situation in the courts ever make a change in what has been declared by INEC? And I said something. I said, whether the truth is sustained or not by the courts, the truth will emanate in the courts, because there's going to be a lot of cross-examinations. There's going to be a lot of evidences, video evidences, documentary evidences from INEC records, what happened between the BVAS and the IRF, and there will be a lot of polling unit agents who you and I may not have access to right now, that will be called up at the tribunals and the courts. The truth will come out of the courts. Whether the truth will be sustained by the courts or not, I yet do not know.
So I am worried, about Nigeria's situation at the moment. There seems to be some cherry picking in terms of comments and who to latch onto and who to call a bad name as to crucify. Do you think that if we're indeed serious about the fight against cyber bullying, cyber terrorism, as the government is painting it now, there will be no holy cows and sacred cows, and everybody would be given the same level of scrutiny?
How can you expect the same level of scrutiny from a government that came right from the word go with deceit, with shenanigans, and with all forms of deceptions? How can you expect anything upright from a government that said they will fight corruption, and corruption has thrived more under them than any other government before them? How can you expect the truth from a government that told you that the first thing we will do, and I still do not believe that they will still do it again, is that we are going to remove a fuel subsidy? And when they saw how sweet and how so easy to steal through this fuel subsidy, they could not defend it anymore. I was listening and watching Femi Adesina when somebody, on Channels Television, somebody threw that question to him directly. That's Buhari even led, what do you call it?
Protest.
A protest. And now you came to power, you now have all the powers at your disposal, and you developed cold feet. And you could see that the usually fluent Femi Adesina was caught unawares. He couldn't answer that question properly. Now you are trying to look at some people and tell them that they did one thing or the other, which probably they did or did not do. Because I looked at this interview of Dati Ahmed. I think it is most unfortunate, and unless you press people also make enough noise. It is most unfortunate to have slammed a fine on Channels Television. So if you are too afraid to make the noise, the rest of us will make the noise that this government through the NBC is oppressing the press and is trying to stifle you. They do not want the truth to be said by people. That is why they are putting that fine on Channels Television. Pray, what did Dati Ahmed say? He said, if you would install Bola Ahmed Tinubu, then you will be compromising democracy. What is a lie about that? As he said that you should not swear him in, he is telling you that, yes, we are waiting for that compromise of the democracy, but we will pursue it in the courts and make sure that it is upturned eventually. So it is a fact that when you swear in somebody who is perceived by others to have stolen their mandate, no matter who declared that mandate originally, and we have had so many situations in which such mandates have been upturned by the courts. And so somebody is saying, until the courts upturn that thing, that is a jeopardy to democracy. That is a compromise to democracy. What is a lie about that? Do I need to remind you that Peter Obi, Atiku, what's his surname now? Abubakar, and others have been a lot more civil in opposition than President Muhammad Buhari was when he was in opposition. Was he not the one that was talking about the blood of the baboon and the gorilla mixing together? Have we so easily forgotten this? And pray, I mean, who asked for his head when he was talking of blood of baboon and gorilla? That is your sitting head of state today. And he spoke it, he said it. I mean, it's in the public domain, we all know it, and we have evidence that he said it. And then somebody will now go to, I think it's in Washington, D.C., that Lai Mohammed, and I'm not surprised, he himself admitted on national television once that his grandchildren were asking him, Grandpa, why are they calling you Lai Mohammed? I mean, how can they be saying that you are stealing somebody's kid goat and you are still playing with it, even at this moment? And then you go to an international forum in the United States of America and you are pointing an accusing finger at somebody who has said that he is not involved. Where is the army that a Peter Obi or an Atiku Abubakar would want to use to establish an interim national government? You hear of interim national government anywhere in the world, it can only come from the military. And that's why let us sound this note of warning. Let the military leave us alone. We do not want any interim national government. We will follow legitimately what we believe is a stolen mandate to take it back from the APC. And if we are not able to take it back, like, didn't it happen in Osun here? Was Ademola Adeleke able to take back what he perceived as a stolen mandate the other time? Have the people now not reacted? In fact, the reaction was so massive that it was as if they hated even the rest of us that contested in that election because they didn't want to see any of us. It was like, we want to show these people now that we don't want to see them. And I give kudos to the people of Osun. They have shown them.
All right. I know you're not a
How
lawyer.
many members of House of Assembly does Osun have for the PDP now? I think 25 or so out of 26. They didn't show them enough. It should have been 26.
All right. You're not a lawyer, but the federal government has warned that Obida to risk treason, treason charges. From the leaked audio and every other statement that has been made that are in the public domain, from Dati to Obi, has there been anything treasonable in the statement?
I am not a lawyer, but I have not found anything treasonable in anything that any of them has said. That's exactly what I have just explained. And even when somebody said something treasonable some 8 or so years ago, who was promising that the blood of baboon and gorilla will mix together, did anybody call for his head? Goodluck Jonathan, just as a gentleman, handed over to him. Look, I tell you the danger that we have in this Nigeria today. The APC, as presently constituted, is like a virus. that virus needs to be fought by everybody. When you don't fight a virus early enough, it degenerates into a disease. I'm sure you know about COVID, okay? And when the disease is allowed to also fester, it leads into mortality. So I want to congratulate the people of Osun State. They have dealt with the virus in Osun State. And I do not see that virus spreading around here much longer. Because let me tell you why I said so. I have been around here, even if I've not been anywhere else. I've been around here to understand how the APC operated in Osun State. And it was just operating by literally taking money to pay their party chairmen, money that should have been used for development. I have said this several times. I said it during the debates when Boyega Oyetola was standing almost next to me, maybe about 2 stands away from me. He could not deny it. I said it several times on your radio stations. I don't think you had your television stations, and on so many other radio stations, and in newspapers, and they could not deny it. They were literally taking the money of government to pay, I don't know how many ward chairmen, ward secretaries, running into thousands, spending billions of money. Now that they do not have access to that anymore, that party will literally die in Osun State. And then I do not have anything. There is good and bad in every people. There are very good and fantastic people in the APC. But the bad ones amongst them have taken the soul of the party. So until they purge themselves of those bad ones amongst them and are able to now have a new crop. So what should happen to the APC all over Nigeria is that there should be a new crop of leadership that will give a new direction to that party, and then the kind of cankerworm that they are right now, eating deep into, you know, the common patrimony of all of us, the kind of cancerous situation that may emanate from there being a virus, then will be forestalled. So that then the rogues amongst them will peter out into other political parties, and those other political parties will also have to be ready to be able to absorb them and deal with them. And then a new APC would emerge that will probably have a few more honest people than more of rogues that they have right now.
So before we come back to the entire treason conversation now and the insurrection, does it send any signal to you that from being, we were just talking about it before you came in, from being 4 people in a room, no structure and all of that, Peter Obi and his Labour Party seem to have gotten more heat than even the traditional opposition, the PDP. Why do you think that is? Why is your candidate now giving the federal government so much headache?
It's not about Peter Obi. If the truth must be told, it's about the people, especially the younger generation, the youth. And then a few of us who do not belong to the younger generation, but are still thirsty to have good governance in this country in our lifetimes. So it's about us, a lot of people, but we needed a symbol. You know, there was the NSAS, and you could not even say this is the icon or symbol of the NSAS. But when it comes to politics, there must be an icon, there must be a symbol. I hope Peter Obi will understand that and be able to manage that enough so that he may still be retained as the icon of the struggle. Because another icon may just emerge, but the people will remain. The people are dissatisfied with the present crop of leadership. There has been a lot of deceit. They were given so many promises that were not kept. They were told that 4 years would be 4 years, and 4 years for students. 4 years were never 4 years. They were more at home. In fact, they were at home 4 years out of the 8 years that this government has been. They were promised, and I remember, check very well. You will see that video clip in which this same man declared as President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu held a broom in his hands and he said, "We will give student loans." I'm not aware of any loan that has been given to anybody. We'll make sure that interest rates come down. You and I know that in civilized countries, interest rates, they demonstrated in Australia that interest rates moved from 0.1 to to 0.15%, something like that. And I had a good laugh. I said, these people should come to Nigeria, where Emefiele will announce a discount rate as 15% today, tomorrow is 17%, the day after is 18%, and the banks will give out loans at 35%. If you can get me a bank loan less than 35%, let me know. I need money. And that's the kind of country that these people have eventually given us after all those promises. So you will discover that it is the people that are annoyed. It is the people that are, the next generation will not take so much to all those things that had been used on the people of old. The people of old would more easily yield to all those ethnic lines, would yield to religious lines. And that's why they are playing on them. Because the same people that are accusing Peter Obi of talking about religious war, and even if he did, I, Goke Omigbodun, support him talking about it, because indeed there was a religious war. There was a religious war in Lagos when they brought out the Oro cult. What does Oro cult have to do with elections? There was a religious war in Kano when they gathered people together and they were telling them not to vote for Kafiris. There was a religious war. And there were other wars. You know already, the ethnic war in Lagos was there. And these are the things that the younger generation and a few of us who do not belong in our mental orientation to our own generation believe should be changed. And so Peter Obi just came and, he fitted very well into the picture and he became the icon. If Peter Obi knows how to manage that very well, he may yet remain. But even if Peter Obi does not, that generation, that next generation coming, will kick out most of my colleagues. Perhaps they may spare a few of us because they will recognize that our own thinking is different from the generation that we belong to.
So let's now, we may take a break soon, but let's come back to this. Lai Mohammed was at an international forum and he spoke about, I'm taking a quote from his statement now, "I was wrong for Obi in one breath to seek redress in court over the outcome of the polls, and in another breath incite people to violence. A Democrat should not believe in democracy only when he wins the election." We'll come to Obi's reaction, but have you seen anything in Peter Obi's conversation, his rhetorics, his statements that could pass as inciting?
You need to be a little bit closer to this man. I only got a little bit close to him during these elections. And in the few fora that I was together with him, rallies and a few meetings, he in fact emphasized peace, unity, progress, and the fact that he was not coming out as an Igbo candidate, that he was not using ethnicity, that he was not using religion. I think Obi is smart enough to also understand the shenanigans of the APC, because like I told you, there will be the rogues. Have you watched WWE several times over? Sometimes when they are wrestling, you will see somebody who knows that, of course, I'm going to lose this fight. So he wants to use the iron rod or something evil on the other person. So he distracts the attention of the referee. And while the referee is battling with the distraction, he uses the rod to hit the head of the other wrestler. Sometimes it works, he wins. Sometimes the other wrestler is still able to stand up and still win. I believe that Peter Obi will still stand up and win this bout. That is exactly what the APC is doing. Because I have not seen anything inciting I have not heard anything inciting in what Peter Obi has said anywhere. In fact, I will also admit that I was also a little bit disappointed with Atiku Abubakar when he told them in the north that they should not vote for people from the south. That wasn't quite charitable. That wasn't nice enough. But there was nowhere where Peter Obi said, don't vote for northerners, don't vote for... And if, I keep on saying if of a truth, Peter Obi said to Bishop Oyedepo that it was a religious war, he was only emphasizing the obvious. And he was talking to a religious leader. See, I wrote something on social media platform, which I just circulated. All of us, as politicians, would always appeal to the various publics that we belong to for support. That is the truth of the matter. Last election, some people, or no, was it 2 elections ago, in Osun State, people were saying, West Lokan, West Lokan. Of course, people of the West latched onto that. Okay? I'm an Oshogbo son. I will not pretend to you that I did not go and meet the Kabiyesi, the Ataja of Oshogbo, to say Kabiyesi, Oshogbo, and Oshogbo son should also be governor. I mean, that's one of the publics that I belong to. And I will also open up to you that because I was co-liaison officer of the next batch, we were 2 batches in the same year with Kabiyesi Aragbiji. So it was co-liaison officer of one batch. I was of the next batch. We worked together as youth corpers. We were very close. I told him, Baba, you know you've been my father for so long. I'm contesting. And he told me I also have a son who is closer to me biologically that is also contesting the election. So everybody would appeal to the publics. The publics will include religion. Okay? Did Bola Ahmed Tinubu not go to a church where, when he was speaking in Yoruba, he could not distinguish between Afa, which is the Islamic terminology, and Alufa? And he was saying about Afa, and the whole church laughed. Oh, Bola Ahmed Tinubu went to the churches, and he went to the mosques. So everybody would appeal to the church, the mosque. Everybody would appeal to religious, to professional organizations. I spoke with members of the Nigerian Institute of Architects at the Nigerian Institution of Essays, Surveyors and Valuers. I spoke with the teachers in my school. I spoke with my neighbors. I spoke with Oshogbo sons and daughters. And so everybody will do that. And everybody did that even for the elections. So why is it now that some people are now trying to point accusing fingers to others for what everybody did? This is campaign long after elections are over. The APC is afraid of its own shadow. And the APC, recognizing that public opinion is strongly against them, must turn the tide against some other victim. And that is what they are trying to do. Well, I'm not surprised if Lai Mohammed have said it. Somebody whose grandson was asking him, why are they calling you Lai Mohammed? So why would you still believe anything that comes from such a human being?
All right, so we'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll look at Peter Obi's response to that issue and the way forward, especially seen as he's not the only person in court. He's not the only opposition leader or the opposition icon. We'll take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll look at Peter Obi's response to Lai Mohammed's position. Welcome back to the show. It's still Morning Spring on Western Spring Television, and still Morning Spring. We have architect Goke Omigbodo still in the studio with us. Some very strong positions he's been taking and some strong words he's been using for.
I thought I was being mild and civil enough.
Oh, yes. you were being.
Because with the APC, you can't be any more civil than I have been.
Yes, we could be more temperate. You know, what with the NBC and
exactly.
And all of that.
And I recognize that.
Yes.
And I do not want any unfair. Fine. The kind of the unfair fine that was put on Channels Television, I would not like it on an upcoming and fantastic Western Spring Television.
Right, thank you very much. That's kind of you. So let's get back to our conversation now. Obi Dati's actions have been branded treasonable by the government. And the question I was asking on the newspaper review is what I'm going to ask you now. If either of these men have committed treason, as the government is touting it now, why have they not been picked up by security agencies?
Well, I think whatever the government is doing now is preparing grounds for that to happen. And they'll be making the greatest mistakes of their lives. Let me warn them. Let them not dare to do it. Because they will annoy those young people who know the truth. They will annoy those young, agile, intelligent people who cannot be fooled like the rest of the society. How can where did Peter Obi incite anybody to any form of either insurrection or treason? People who would go into treason must have the hand of the military. That's why I said, I hope we still have the Directorate of Military Intelligence. I hope that is what they are still called, you know, and they should look into their own members and find out what is happening. But let the government not look for a bad name for a dog, because that dog must just be hung at all costs. The APC is so much afraid of its own shadow in stealing mandates that they want to direct attention from the real issues on ground, and then want to be chasing shadows so that they put you into defending yourselves over issues. Meanwhile, the questions that people should be asking, and you know, when things have to do with crime, they are always hanging there. And before certain people acquire some air of what do they call it, immunity, they should still ask questions from them. Is it true that certain people had anything to do with the kidnapping of Chibok girls? Is it true that certain people had anything to do with Kabiru Sokoto, who was very well associated with what's the name of that group, Boko Haram? Is it true that some people were associated with drug lords in the United States of America? Those are the questions that people should be asking, but they are clever enough to want to divert attention from those questions into other issues. And again, it's unfortunate. If I were to be a member of the APC, what I would be advocating right now will be appeasing the people, appealing for peace, and seeking to have a government of national unity such that even the opposition would be tempered. Let me tell you what I mean. The Babangida government was a very smart one. I mean, when they saw that the Nadeko, the Yorubas were making a lot of noise, they called them together. And even if you will now call for the head of an Ebenezer Babatope and in his grave go and cut the head of Lateef Jakande, it was the Yoruba people that said those people should go and serve in the Abacha government. That is the truth of the matter. I was old enough and involved in politics to understand what was happening. I've been a part of Afenifere for so long now, so I understand some of these things. So they were able to get the confidence of the agitators by bringing them together. But the APC is always thinking of winner takes all. And you cannot do a winner take all in a country of 250 million people, about 93 million voters. I don't know how many people actually came out to vote eventually, but you are able to either accumulate, buy, or write up about 8 million votes amongst these so many people. And rather than seeking peace with those people, you are hunting them and putting bad labels on them. I think they should have some intelligence strategists in the APC that should have a winning streak. They stayed too long in the opposition that their mentality cannot understand anything other than aggression. And that is what they are still doing against the people. Okay,
so let's look at Peter Obi's reaction now. I'll take his tweets yesterday. Quoting him now, says, in the past few days I have observed various campaigns of calumny directed at my person, with the latest being allegations attributed to the Information Minister Lai Mohammed from Washington, D.C. It is most unfortunate that these consistent efforts to portray me quite contrary to what I am and my core values is coming from such high quarters. Minister Lai accusing me of stoking insurrection is totally malicious and fictitious. I have never discussed or encouraged anyone to undermine the Nigerian state. I have never sponsored or preached any action against the Nigerian state. Those initiating these actions have increasingly used their official positions and agents to make false allegations against me. I am on record always advocating for peace and issue-based campaign and never campaigned based on ethnicity or religion. I am committed to due process and presently seeking redress in the court. I urge those engaged in this demarketing process to stop presenting Nigeria in such bad light. Our future generations deserve a new Nigeria where they can live a secure and decent life like their counterparts in other climes. It is possible. Pure, end of quote. Now, from this statement, he seemed to have also addressed the issue of the audio, saying that he has never campaigned on the basis of ethnicity and religion, and he has never said that anyone should undermine the Nigerian state. Do you think that this response is at par with the kind of allegations that have been leveled against him?
What have I said here today that is different from what you just read out? I had not read Peter Obi's response. That's the truth. But perhaps the only thing that he has said that I didn't say is that Lai Mohammed saying that at an international forum is a big disgrace to Nigeria, because he is using the platform of officialdom to spread what is obviously a lie and, you know, a phantom coup, so to say, and trying to create a bad name for Peter Obi. Yes, they will be afraid of Peter Obi because, let me tell you the truth, the PDP is such a fantastic political party, but the PDP has not gotten it right with either propaganda or opposing propaganda. There is this generation of young people who are so technology savvy that they cannot just be swept away by the propaganda of the APC. So if APC, recognizing that its most potent instrument, weapon of political warfare is propaganda, and using the propaganda along ethnic lines, like claiming that Gbadebo Road is not from Lagos, along religious lines, like in Kano, telling them not to vote for curfews, and along other such unfortunate lines. And those propaganda gets taken in by the people. Another one, I kept on screaming at that time when they were saying that the Naira scarcity, it was Emefiele that was using it against Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I said, hey, my people, don't believe this thing. Professors were arguing with me. They believed. Now, 2 months after, we are still fighting this Naira issue. And some of them are beginning to apologize. We ought to have listened to you. So, people of Nigeria, please listen to me. Do not believe any propaganda coming from the APC or its government. Let us focus on whatever is going to come out of the tribunals. Let us focus on whatever is going to come out from the courts. If it is possible, let us still find out what can come out from investigations about drug deals, about relationship with Boko Haram, about certain things that happened with Kabiru Sokoto, and certain of those are the things we should be concentrating on now, and be trying to find out, are these the people that should permanently occupy the place of governance in this country? If they find their roads into such places temporarily, yes, it's okay, because the Constitution will not allow for an interim national government. Didn't they have a Trump in the United States of America? Is he not facing criminal charges right now? The first in the history of the United States of America. So wait. History is being made in Nigeria. We may yet have people who will face criminal charges after temporarily occupying certain offices in this country.
Well, still very much interested in that leaked audio. Do you
in the what?
The leaked audio.
The leaked audio, yes.
Do you find it worrisome that that audio found its way into the public domain in the first place?
Oh yes, I find it a little worrisome, but again, I'm going to give a caveat that all of us be careful what we say anywhere. I don't think it ought to have found its way into the public domain, but I will also plead guilty that I have done something like that before. And that was just a couple of weeks ago, maybe about 2 weeks ago. Some people were telling lies about me on an issue. And I mean, I saw that their evidences were controverting one another. And I brought it to their attention, and I expected them to come into the open and apologize to me. But rather than doing that, they started supporting one another. So I just put my conversations with them on the platform, and then they started dropping off the platform because they knew the game was up. So, well, you may say that is bad enough. So all of us should be careful what we say in the private. And that is why I said it, that if, because I don't know yet, again, the APC can weave anything together. I listened to Chief Nwayawu, and Chief Nwayawu said, we have no problems with the Yorubas. They that committed this thing were rascals. That is what he meant. But the way he said it also, because he said, we don't have anything with the Yorubas are with us. They cut that with us away from that clip. Go and listen to that thing very well. We have no problems with the Yorubas are with us, was what he said. And then he said, they are, so then he now said, they are rascals. That is, the ones that attacked the Igbos. They now cut away with us. So it now sounded that like the Yorubas are rascals. Look, I have a social media video program that it's a devotional program. You know, I'm a priest of the Anglican Church, and I have a devotional program. I call it Your Life Boy Today, which I circulate, and I do it myself. I edit it, so I know anything, and all of the people in the studio here who know about editing know how you can cut certain things and bring others in. And did they also not post something about Atiku and somebody else, and they cut out certain things? We later discovered that yes, Atiku actually said certain things in other places, and so it was his voice, and along with his picture. There was one clip like that, if you will remember very well. So these people can piece anything together and put it together to serve the purposes, evil purposes of propaganda that they want to project. Now, so in that case of the leaked audio of Peter Obi, I am not yet sure. I don't want to defend him that he said or didn't say it. But I want to defend him in case he said it, that he was saying the obvious. Russia invaded Ukraine, and Ukraine is saying, this is a war on our laps. And then you are saying, oh, it is Ukraine that declared war. APC went with propaganda in Kano, telling the Muslims not to vote for kafirs. And Peter Obi was talking to a religious leader. So if he was talking to a religious leader, what would he call it? If I was talking to the Ataoja of Osogbo, would I not tell him, this is a war on the children of Osogbo, so that none of us will become governor? And then he too will. And then, but the moment I leave his palace and I go into my family compound, I also tell them that this is something against Olobado people. You know, and whatever you do amongst those people, I mean, it's private as long as it is not on a podium. I mean, you are talking one-to-one to somebody on phone, and you are recognizing that a war, a religious war, had been unleashed on your people, which eventually, ultimately manifested. Did Oro people not come out in Lagos? Did that war not emanate eventually from the APC? So truly, there was a religious war. So even if Obi denies it, I am saying that the APC brought a religious war in Lagos with the Oro cult. So
let's the talk about the war now. I'm also worried that could it be a different context that he was talking about? But you said you don't want to.
I can't tap into his brain. But honestly, the only thing I can see right now is that probably was discussed on phone, unless he denies it, eventually manifested. The Oro cult coming out for elections in Lagos, was that not a religious war?
Do you know, when we talk about war, we talk about people taking up arms against each other.
Were there arms not taken up against people who were going to vote and they were prevented from reaching election venue? Did people not die in Lagos? Were ballot boxes not snatched in places where they thought that Gbadebo Roosevelt was going to win? Were polling, I mean, look, everything to some unscrupulous people is fair in war. So they saw it as warfare. And that's why they would now boast, go to court, because they have done the worst that they can do. And they believe that they have escaped with it. But that could have happened in the days of old. The world of technology is so abundant with evidences. And I have said it on a number of radio stations, perhaps this will be the first television station that I'm saying it, that I belong to a Situation Room platform. I'm not a member of the Labour Party. I am a member of Afenifere. And Afenifere said we should go and support Peter Obi, and Peter Obi contested on the platform of the Labour Party, and so we supported the Labour Party. And I'm on a Situation Room platform where the evidences that I saw of the evil perpetrated by the APC in these past elections, when taken to court, I have no doubt in my mind the judges would upturn whatever is right now.
Oh, all right. So, Temitope seems to have something to ask you.
Yes, just about the Afenifere crisis that youths are seeking that Adebanjo steps down. What would you say about that situation?
That what?
Adebanjo should step down.
Who said so?
Youths
Which youths?
are asking that he should step down.
Which youths? I'm asking you which youths.
It's there on the paper.
No, I need to know which youths, because I can't understand yet, because I don't know which youths are saying that. Are those youths members of Afenifere? Because I was still at the last meeting of Afenifere in Papa Adebanjo's house, and there was nothing like that was discussed. What was discussed was the fact that some people were projecting themselves to be representing the interest of Afenifere. But these are people that were not doing exactly what Afenifere was doing. Jare Ajayi was suspended as media public relations. I can't remember the exact title, but the one that interfaces with the media. And Kole Omololu was suspended as organizing secretary. Those were the things that we did at the meeting. And I always tell people, have you forgotten so soon? Because I live in Oshogbo and I've been close to all these people. I was very close to Papa Fasami in his lifetime. I would go to his house to take him to church on many Sundays and, and take him to so many programs. I am still close to Papa Fashionati. He's still alive. I grew up with his children. His daughter that was killed was my sister, so to say. And his other children are still my brothers and sisters. Sometimes when I travel through Akure Airport, I leave my vehicle in the house of Papa Fashionati and come back to pick it. Papa Adebanjo, I am very close to. I talk to on phone from time to time. And I ask this question. When the likes of Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his followers were propping up Papa, late Papa Senator Ayo Fasomi, to challenge Papa Fashionati to the leadership of Afenifere. Have people forgotten that so quickly? And then it was only after, the moment Papa Ayo Fasomi died, then Bola Ahmed Tinubu should have announced himself as the next Afenifere factional leader, rather than going back to go and be bowing and kowtowing behind the same man that you had disparaged several times. Have you forgotten that when his daughter died, that when Bola Ahmed Tinubu went there, and people were saying, it was some herdsmen, he was asking, where are the cattle? Eventually, those that were tried for it and convicted, did they not have cattle? And all of a sudden, because now it was election times, the man went to go and try to destroy a friendship of more than 70 years. Because I am close enough to the Adebanjo, at least to Papa Adebanjo, and the entirety of the Fashionati family, to know that the friendship had been between those two people for so long. And just because of an ambition, you are now somebody who had said he had served enough, he wanted to go and rest, and we recognize him as leader emeritus. You are now going back to wake him up. Listen, the Pope Emeritus died about 3 or 4 months ago. I can't remember. Can't be more than 2 or 3 months ago. Now, he stepped down and allowed this present Pope to continue. That's exactly what happened. So can you imagine some Catholics now being annoyed with this Pope and then going back to the Pope Emeritus and saying, come back to take your seat? I mean, that is evil. Let us face reality. So there is no problem with the Afenifere as the real core Afenifere. If a few people do not necessarily agree with the central, because the central decision that we took in Afenifere, and I was privy to that decision, because at the beginning, in fact, the position of some of those that were older than us is that we should not partake in the elections at all. And I said, no, I am contesting the governorship of Osun, 1. And 2, I am going to support somebody from the east, from presidency. I knew all along, whatever, I was actually hoping Peter Obi will come out in PDP, and I will have supported him in the PDP. Because I have seen the examples that he left. I'm not saying they were perfect, that he left behind in Anambra. I have seen this man go on economy traveling by air. I have seen this man rejecting land parcels. I have seen this man rejecting all the retirement packages that somebody like Bola Ahmed Tinubu and so many other governors in Nigeria will take.
Right, so
and so I knew this was somebody that was worth following. And when it was time, and Afenifere said, egalitarianism is our national watchword. That's, and I need to let you know, Afenifere is not a socio-cultural organization. It is a socio-political organization, and it only has roots in southwest Nigeria. That is why we say egalitarianism is a national watchword. So if we do not have a national outlook, then we will not tell you that we have a national watchword. Afenifere was the root of the action group. Afenifere was the core of the Unity Party of Nigeria. Afenifere was the springing board for the Alliance for Democracy, and at a point in time of the Social Democratic Party, on which I contested the elections. And when we thought that we needed to support somebody from the East, because in Yoruba, they said, Igbagbo wa ni pe, ba se beru la bomo. So the way the Igbo man was born is the way the Yoruba man was born, is the way the Fulani man was born. None of them should be cheated. If there is an unwritten code about rotation, let us respect it. When we are taking children into federal government colleges, sometimes you will say, so that we can have enough people from Borno, you should lower the mark to 35%. But because you have too many people from Imo State who have scored 60%, you say you lower the mark to, only to 70% for them, just to make sure we have enough of the mix of all Nigeria. Your constitution says that a minister should come from each state of the federation. So you recognize that we should share things around on the basis of diversity, on ethnicity, on religion, and so many other things. So why should it now be the turn of the presidency when you had an Obasanjo some time ago, and you have had a Fulani there for so long, and a Yoruba man being his vice president? You now say the Igbos should not have their own turn. Those are the issues.
All right, those are the issues. We leave it there. Like to say categorically that some of the views expressed on this show are that of the
they're my views.
Espresso.
Please don't find WSTV. They are just up and coming. Otherwise, please cut off anything that I have said that may make them want to find you, because they are an arm of government.
Okay, so that's the show. We'll be speaking with architect Goke Omigbadun, who has spoken on the back and forth between the federal government and presidential candidate of the Labour Party now, Peter Obi. Well, that's the show this morning. Thank you so much for joining us on the program this morning.
I'm so happy that you gave me this opportunity.
Yeah, you're welcome. And so I will be coming back to tell you what's trending. Nigerians are not particularly happy with a certain 18-year-old girl on Twitter who accused someone wrongly of rape. Well, we'll get to see that and our apology video on social media and the reactions to that when I come back.
All right, until tomorrow, have a blessed day. I'm Temitope Ajijola Oluwaola. Good morning.